Hello. We're just beginning the process to crush your cravings. It is the same type of process that you can use over and over again for whatever type of cravings that you have. It's a very involved type of process, although it's also simple on some levels. But I want to let you know that some of the thinking processes that go into how we've recorded the information are actually very important. It's useful to be tapping right from the very beginning, even though I'm just speaking. I would like you to begin tapping right now and to tap through the process, both while I'm talking about the information and while you're asking yourself questions about how you would answer the questions that help to bring more clarity for you. In the very beginning of this Crush Your Craving video, the first thing to do is make sure that you have your junk food or your craving type food still in its original packaging. Go and get it now if you haven't already got it on hand, because smelling it and tasting it is also part of the way that we're linked to the craving for whatever it is that we crave most. I encourage you to go put me on hold if you need to, but go and get that right now, other than if it's ice cream. If it's ice cream, you might want to wait a few minutes, depending on how warm it is where you are. I would like you at the very beginning of the class to think about the food or the food product that you really crave the most and give it an intensity level from 1 to 10, so that right at the beginning you have a SUD, subjective units of distress, about how pressured you feel about getting the food or food product that you want when you really start to crave it. Begin with our awareness of this food and the craving we have of it, and why we crave it, where it originated from, where it fits in our memory bank, and how it's connected to our emotions. So the first part is to really think about when you eat this food. Do you eat it at coffee break time? Do you eat it when you come home when you're tired and you haven't got the energy to make dinner? Do you eat it after dinner? Is it some process where you eat additional food in the evening that you know that you really don't need because you're not actually hungry, but it's just part of a habit that you've developed for yourself? So think about, when do you eat this food? And do you eat it when you're alone, or do you eat it with other people? Do you eat it for nutrition? Does it have nutritional value? Or do you eat it to be social? Do you eat it to keep someone else company? So if you eat at work, or do you eat more when you're out with friends? Is it to fit in, to not have a different nutritional or a different food standard for yourself, so that you fit in well with your friends? Also, think about why you eat. Are you eating to calm yourself? Or are you eating to soothe yourself? Or are you eating to reward yourself if you don't feel rewarded or appreciated? Think about the food. Look at the food and think, what does this food do for me? Or what does this food product do for me? Why do I really crave this? And so beyond that, think about the food or the food product that you have in terms of the power that you've given to that food. Think about it in terms of, what emotional connection does it have to you? And normally food does have an emotional connection to us. So food really is just food. An apple is just an apple, and a chocolate bar is just a food product. These things are just pieces of, hopefully, nutrition that we're actually putting inside our body like fuel to fuel our body. When we think about things that we eat in terms of junk food, it's sort of like our car might be an engine, and the engine might be petrol, and we might be putting in diesel, something that really makes it sluggish and doesn't work very well. It is useful to think about the way that we deal with food and what we're actually doing with it, because quite often when we have weight issues, we use food for things other than nutrition. And even we sometimes notice that we're doing it, and we continue to do it anyway, which is one of the reasons that tapping can be so effective for changing the way we engage with food, and especially in this particular case, in the way that we can help to crush cravings. So once we recognize what some of the mental emotional links are, and you're actually tapping as you think of them, you actually start to break them. You help them to disengage one thing from the other. Food is just food, and emotions are just emotions. Any connection that an emotion has to a food that we're eating, we actually gave it that power. And some of it's really got a lot of power. For me, one of my big weaknesses is apple pie. And apple pie has a huge meaning for me because when I was little, my grandmother, who was part of my extended family, my stepfather's family, taught us how to bake. And there was a huge family with lots of siblings and dozens, literally dozens of grandchildren. And so to get my grandmother's attention to myself, or to be just with one or two other grandchildren, to actually go to her house and we would pick the apples, and we would come in, and she would teach us everything about what you had to do to make apple pie. And when the pie was cooking, she would sit and play cards with us. And it was so wonderful. It was so valuable to have her time and her attention. And as we played cards together, we had all this wonderful social engagement and feeling of love and acceptance. We had the wonderful smell of apple pie baking and the cinnamon smell. It was just wonderful. So now as an adult, whenever I go into a store and they have a bakery, if they're baking apple pie and I can smell the cinnamon, sometimes because I've lived by myself, I literally want to turn around and just walk straight back out of the store, because I don't want to take an entire apple pie home, because I don't want to eat an entire apple pie all by myself. And on top of that, I know it won't be as good as the ones that we made ourselves. That the feeling that they use isn't the same, prepared the same way that we did it when I was young. However, that's just one of the stories. And I tell you that story because we all have different connections to the things that we really, really value. Think about when the first time you really had the junk food or the craving food that you really love to have. When did you have it? Was it a reward? Was it when your family went to the beach, and if you were good all day at the beach, you could have an ice cream cone? Or was it something that you got for a reward if you were good after you'd done your chores? Or was it something that was part of your family's social engagement? Every evening, did they have a treat of some kind when you went into the living room to watch TV together? Think about where you got your appreciation for the type of junk or craving food that you really like. Where did you have your emotional connection to that? Think about what it meant to you when you were a child and what it means to you now. Because if it was a food that you were given as a reward as a child, and right now your work is less than perfect, or you're overworked and underpaid, this may be a way that you actually soothe and reward yourself for all the hard work you're doing that no one else is giving you appreciation for. And so sometimes we're using food to fill a void that's supposed to be filled with emotions, with appreciation, with acknowledgement, with many other things. So as you're tapping and you're thinking about these things, literally thinking, these are two separate things. Food is food and emotions are emotions. And sometimes no amount of food will ever fill a void that needs to be filled with emotions, with love and support and acknowledgement and all the things that I need and want in my life, for those places and needs to be filled with what they should be filled with, and not with food that doesn't really have any true nurturing or nutritional value for me. So think beyond those points and think about what your connection is to your craving food. And that's one of your real beginning points for it. But beyond that, the next thing that I want you to do is think about your craving nemesis and look at its packaging and think about what it actually is. And think about, I talked about Grandma's apple pie and the smell, and that was a really big connection for me. But I want you now to look at what it is that you eat and look at the packaging of it. And think about the way that the companies that are marketing that for you are literally spending millions of dollars in research and attractiveness and packaging for whatever it is. One of the things that I like to eat is a chocolate bar, and it's Lindt. And it's a special type of chocolate. And on the package, it actually has Lindt written in raised gold letters across the front. And right underneath the word Lindt is the word excellence. And so that makes it feel, when I look at that when I give that to myself, I'm giving myself the very best. And even though it's a very high quality product, it's still maybe something that I don't really need for myself, but the marketing of it is very, very specific. The type of wrapping that it's in is a specific weight of cardboard that the packaging is around the outside of the silver foil. And each one of the different types of things that we really love have a specific marketing that's been planned to make us want to have that and to value it and appreciate it in different ways that connect with us on a subconscious level rather than consciously. So I want you to think about, if you have a bag of crisps, actually potato chips, if you actually crinkle the bag and the actual noise that it makes, that is a real sound and auditory connection to your desire to have that. I can remember years ago when I used to smoke cigarettes, one of the things that I really liked and appreciated about that, and I missed when I quit smoking, was cigarettes were wrapped in little cellophane packaging. And when you tore off the little release strip, you pulled off the pieces of foil, and I would never cellophane, and I would never throw it away. I would never throw litter on the street. So I would fold it, I would twist it, and I would wrap the little piece around it, and I would put it in my pocket. And that little crinkling noise that it made was part of the habit and the routine of smoking cigarettes. And so I want you to look at what you're eating and look at the habit and the routine of it. For example, Ben & Jerry's ice cream comes in a beautiful little package, so just a little individual serving with its little lid on, and it's got really beautiful print on it, and sometimes it's got cows or different things on it, and it makes you think, oh, it's homegrown, it's valuable. And when you see the packaging size, you think, this is just for me. I don't actually have to share this. This is just for me. So it's intended to make you feel special. And sometimes when you think about it in those terms, it does help to make you feel special because you get to have the flavor that you like, even if no one else in your family likes it. You don't have to conform. You don't have to have anyone else's approval. You get it just for yourself. And so part of the way that we think we're connected to the things that we crave are the ways that we're connected in our mental emotional state. So be tapping through some of these different things as you think about it. So even think about the way that you've heard the advertisements for the things that you like. For example, someone brought to one of my classes a package of Smarties, and that was her craving. And so there's the noise that they make inside the little package. You would shake your package of Smarties. And in the advertisements, they would say, I'm not very good with jingle sounds particularly, but they would say, when you eat your Smarties, do you eat the red ones last? Do you suck them very slowly or chew them very fast? Do you something and then, so tell me when I ask, when you eat your Smarties, do you eat the red ones last? And so think about that, the jingles that go with the foods that you eat. They have connections and actually places in your memory bank that reminds you of happy people enjoying these things. Or Kit Cake, or the Kit Kat bars. They would say, "You deserve a break today," and then they would break apart the little bars, and that goes, "You deserve a reward. This is a reward for you. This is something you deserve." So there's all these different mental, emotional things that advertisers have intentionally been selling their food products to us. And this gets really involved and really fun. I mean, imagine the one about Coca-Cola. All the people all around the world. I want to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And of course, I can't sing in perfect harmony, but it's the feeling. It's the feeling of connection. So here you are drinking any Coke or soda product, and it's got really harmful things in it. And where it's sold with love and joy and happiness and connection. And so when you're tapping, you can realize they're really separate things. They're intentional marketing strategies. And so take back that part. And then go to the next part. If you have Coca-Cola, and that is something that they've actually got things in it that help really draw you back with the sugar spike and then the crash afterwards to draw you back to want more. But there's also, even beyond that, think of the noise that pop makes when you pop the top of a can of Coke, and there's that fizz noise, and that fizz is like a little release of excitement. And so just recently I saw an advertisement for Perrier, and all those little bubbles, they had them all coming out like excitement. And the excitement turned into hot air balloons. So it was not just the excitement of the little fizz for the moment. It was like an adventure that could take you anywhere. So think of the mental, emotional connections that we have to the advertising, to the sounds, to the smells, to the promise that they hold for us. We're going to be happy. We're going to be free. We're going to be connected to people. It's going to improve my life somehow. And so have a real awareness that what you have in the package is just a food, or it's just a food product. It's not a promise of happiness. It's not a promise of reward. It's not a pay rise. It's not maybe going to give you what it actually is intending you to believe that you might get from it. Now, let's go, now that we've got past advertising, sight, smell, sounds, look at your packaging and think, what does this packaging mean to me? Do I remember an advertisement about this particular brand? Did we buy this brand because my mother brought it, because it was in my family? Was it something that someone gave to me as a gift? And that's one of the reasons that I really appreciate it. I really appreciate even buying it for myself years later, because it has real emotional value to me. Now we're going to get to the part where we're going to actually look at what the product is, and we'll tap on the real value of what it is. So give me just a second. Okay, so we're ready to actually work on the actual tapping of the product, or the food product, or the food that you crave the most. And so think about not just the packaging that it's in and what promise that is supposed to have for you, but think about what its meaning to you is in terms of your family, where you normally have it. Is it something that you have regularly? Was it a treat for you? Was it part of a regular family routine that if you took it away that you would really miss it? Like you had lost someone instead of lost a few calories. So take a look at what the message is, what's actually written on that actual food product. What does it say on it? Often it will say something like satisfaction. One of the commercials that I absolutely love recently is about, I think it might be Snickers, that you'll be a diva if you don't have your Snickers, that it'll get you back inside being yourself again. So think about links. and think about, I gave this power, connecting this emotion to this food product. And I can also choose to take that power back. That I can know that the emotion that I felt was excitement or connection or whatever it was, but that I could still have all of those feelings just by choosing to think about things that generate those feelings without it being connected to a food or a food product. That I have that freedom of choice. I just have to choose something different. However, let's go to what this food product is and look at it. Think about its what the texture of the packaging is, what that looks like, and how crinkle it or rub your hand across it, feel what it feels like to you so you have a real sensory perception of it. And then we'll go to the next part. And the next part is anticipation. Think about the food or food product and check your 1 to 10 intensity level. How much do you crave this food? How much do you really want to eat this food? How would you feel if you really wanted to have this food and you went to the cupboard to get it and someone stood in front of you and said, no, you can't have it? Would you be angry? Would you be sad? Would you be upset? Would you go in the car and buy some more at the store? How important would it be to you to have or to not have this particular food? And also think about what that emotion might be if someone told you you couldn't have it, because that might give you an idea to part of the reason why you are actually eating that food. The food itself, give it a 1 to 10 rating. How much do you crave the food? Think about how much you anticipate this food. Do you feel excited when you go to the cupboard to get this food or go to the fridge to get this food? Is it something that you really look forward to having? What is it about this food that really connects for you? What is it that really makes you feel connected and important and satisfied by having this food for yourself? Is it a food that you share with other people? Or is it something that you like to have by yourself? Do you have a secret stash of this in the house somewhere that's just yours that you don't share with anyone else? So think about it. What do you feel when you eat the food? Do you feel comforted? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel relieved? Do you feel relieved if it was the last piece of cake and you got it? So as you think about it, do you start to salivate? Like, think about what it sounds like in the package and what it feels like in your hand if it's something that you eat with your hands. And think about whether it's crunchy or whether it's whatever it is. Is it salty? Is it sweet? Is it savory? Is it spicy? What kind of promise does it really have for you? Think about that and give that a little bit of attention while you do a bit more tapping. If you've re-rated your 1 to 10 and you know what that is, now go through the very next step. And the next step is actually open the end of the package. Or if it's chocolate, tear open the packaging and actually smell, sniff the food or the food product that you want to eat. And see if that smell actually matches what you expected it to be. Is it actually as pungent, or is it as sweet, or is it as sharp as you expected it to be? So really sniff it again and really think about that. And then I want you to do another round of tapping while you think about that this is a particular food. And for me, what I was tapping on, one of the things that I have tapped on in the past is salt and vinegar crisps. And so I want you to think about what you expected. Expected a real tang, a real explosion on your tongue of the sharpness of the vinegar. And the real tang of the salt as well. It's a real sort of explosion on your tongue the first few times. And as you put the potato chips into your mouth, there's the crispness of the potato chip, and there's the crunch as you bite on it. And if you've had a hard day, it might be a quiet way to get rid of some of the tension you're holding by chewing really firmly on things that are crisp. But think beyond that, what you expect. What do you expect from the craving object that you have, that you look forward to having? What is it about it that's really, really good for you? What is it that keys your anticipation? What is it? If it's a chocolate bar, is it because it has a flavoring in it? Is it because you can count on it to be really creamy, that maybe you keep it in the fridge and you break off a little piece in your mouth, and as it begins to melt and you allow it to melt on your tongue and the flavor spreads and it sort of melts away, and then you go to another piece and another. So think about what you expect that to be like. And now I want you to go back to whatever your product is and take another sniff of it. Does it smell? Really take another smell of it and see if it smells the way it smelled just a few minutes ago. Because often when you're tapping, what you will find is that your level of awareness, your actual internal body sense of awareness, your olfactory sensory part gets turned up, and you become much, much more aware of what's actually present. For example, sometimes when you smell potato chips or another product, especially candies, you might actually notice the smell of the preservatives that are in them, or one of the dyes that is in them that you hadn't consciously ever noticed before. Sometimes as you're tapping, you actually, and you smell again, you've actually turned up your body awareness, and you have a whole new awareness of what's actually in the product. And sometimes that really helps to turn down the desire to eat it. And one of the wonderful side benefits is, even if you're tapping on a home-cooked product, it really helps you to turn up your awareness, to turn down the amount of it that you eat. Because within tapping and tapping for cravings, it's not that we want things to be all or nothing in life. I want you still to be able to enjoy foods that you've enjoyed all your life, but to just have them in balance, to just have some, instead of doing what most of us who've ever had weight issues have done, which is eat all of whatever we open. For example, I have been guilty many times in the past of opening and eating an entire family-sized bag of potato chips. And what I've done is I've gone into the living room and sat down in front of the television and started to eat them. And once we are eating in front of the computer, we're eating in front of the television, our mind switches off. We literally are eating on autopilot. And this is one of the ways that we undermine ourselves. And so I hope that you're still continuing to tap, because this is one of the realities that I want you to be aware of, that quite often we will eat on autopilot. We'll eat for some reason that has nothing to do with hunger, that it has more to do with soothing or nurturing, soothing ourselves than nurturing ourselves. And when we get to the point that we take something in with us from the kitchen to the living room, and we start to watch television, or we're playing a game on the computer, we're eating completely on autopilot. I guarantee you that if you just change your balance of how you deal with foods that you desire, instead of making it all or nothing, if you just take a bowl, a small bowl, or even a cereal-sized bowl if you're just wanting to cut down. Is literally, instead of taking a family-sized bag of potato chips into the living room, put them into a bowl and make the bowl even be a heaping bowl serving. But when you get in the living room, that you'll come back to conscious awareness as soon as you hit the bottom of the bowl. And you go, did I already eat all of those? And then at the point of conscious awareness, you can see that maybe you really don't need any more. Now, if you have a craving that's really pushing you, if you've tapped for a few minutes, it'll probably switch off. But if there's something that's really eating at you and you don't want to go look for the cause of the driver behind the craving, then at least you're fully awake. You can choose to have more or not have more. I want you to have an idea of awareness about this, because I guarantee you that if you took 8 double stuffed Oreo cookies in a bowl into the living room and you began to eat them, that after you'd eaten all 8, that you wouldn't remember eating any more than the first 1.5 to 2 cookies. And all of the rest, all of the other cookies, you would have eaten on autopilot. You'll only notice and stop eating when you hit the bottom. And so part of your empowerment for crushing your cravings is tapping before you have something that you crave, and is in changing your balance with what you're doing, with actually being awake and aware in the way that you eat. I don't want it to be all or nothing, because if you tell yourself all the time, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have that, if you're living a life that's diet and deprivation, you are turning up your stress level. And when you turn up your stress level, you turn up the amount of cortisol in your body, and cortisol is what tells your body to take all the glucose. That the higher level of cortisol, higher level of glucose in your body get turned into fat cells. And that's how your body works. You eat carbs into sugar, sugar into glucose, glucose into fat cells. The more carbs you have, the more cortisol you have in your body, the higher the number of conversion it is for glucose into fat cells. So literally having less stress intentionally. For example, if you are being mindful of the way you're eating and you just overindulge one night, instead of spending the next 3 hours berating yourself and raising your stress level and raising your cortisol level, just forgive yourself. Just go, I'm going to do better tomorrow. And then do better tomorrow. It's not about all or nothing. It's really about living your life in a way that's really good. So let's go back to that food product. Go back and sniff it one more time and see if it's actually at all what you remembered or thought it would be. And now the next step is take a piece and actually taste it. If it's a potato chip, put it in your mouth, put it on your tongue, and bite it, and taste the flavor of it. Is it exactly the way you expected it to be? And chew it, and have a real awareness of what it becomes. I actually have liked Rice Crisps. And what I found was I really liked the way I could chew them. And they didn't have a really high calorie content, but I liked the flavoring that was on them, and I liked the crispness of them. But what I noticed when I actually worked through crushing a craving with them was that they became a bit matted, sort of pasty as I got through them. And I hadn't noticed that before I'd actually been working on crushing a craving. So with your full awareness, see how this product food product might change for you as you chew it, as the flavor starts to recede a bit. Then do another round of tapping on that. I'm eating this with full awareness. I'm eating this food product or food, whatever it is, with full awareness. And is it holding true to the promise that I expected it to have for me? And at the end of tasting it, I want you to go back and do another round of tapping on that. Is it really holding true? Is it as smooth as I expected it to be? Is it as crisp as I expected it to be? Is the flavor as true as my expectation of it was? And I'm allowing myself to see reality, whatever reality is for me. Is this really as important to me as it was a few minutes ago? Is this something really important for me to have and to eat as regularly or as intensely as I might have been doing it previously? And now, time to go back and taste it once more. Put it in your mouth and chew it or let it melt. See if you can taste with more awareness of what, if there are preservatives in it, if there's food dyes in it, if there's whatever, because your body has an innate sense of wisdom about what's actually good for you and what isn't good for you. About almost 30 years ago, I was at a holistic enlightenment class, and we were doing introductions to different type of holistic therapies, and one of them was kinesiology, which is muscle testing. And what they did was gave us 5 different little containers that all looked identical, and the number was on the bottom. So they would switch them around so we couldn't tell which one was which. And we would hold them against our solar plexus and put our arm out for muscle testing. And then we would, not knowing if we were supposed to test strong or weak, we couldn't cheat. We couldn't mentally cheat to make it one way or the other. And what we found quite consistently through our entire class was that everyone tested strong for the things that were good for us, which the one container had alfalfa sprouts and one had another holistic kind of food. And in the other ones, there was sugar and tobacco, and the other one had a house cleaning product in it. And on all 3 of the ones that were not really good for us, we muscle tested wrong, which means that our body has a much more keen and intelligent sense of awareness of what's actually good to put into our body than what is not. And so sometimes when we're tapping, it's like we're turning up our awareness of what our body really needs and wants. And so it's not that we can't have food products that we've liked or valued or appreciated through our life. For me, what would Christmas be if I didn't have a Terry's orange chocolate orange in the toe of my stocking? And even though I might not eat all of it now, I might put it out on the table and share it with other people. Just the reminder of the tradition of it is still there. But it doesn't mean that I have to eat all of it or eat as much of it as I used to still really sit down and enjoy it, to remember the memory and to eat some of it, but to eat it with really conscious awareness. And then I don't desire the whole thing. It's not like I eat it and then it's gone and then I wonder where it went. It's a whole different level of awareness that you get. And so even though this isn't an interactive class where I have you to answer questions, I've taught weight loss classes many times, and I want to assure you that at this point, that your weight, that your intensity level, your 1 to 10 intensity level, should have really dropped quite a lot, quite noticeably. And in many cases, you will have found that you're not really desiring what you were craving in the beginning at all. And I want to also let you know that in the clinical study that was done, that the people involved in the clinical study for EFT found that even a year after the study was over, that some people had so completely let go of their cravings that they didn't even remember what they were. And so if you go through all the pieces that I have talked about and look for more mental emotional connections that you yourself might have put onto this particular food or food product that you're craving, that you really should be able to unlink it so that it's just something you choose to eat or you don't choose to eat. It doesn't have the power to be talking to you quietly from the cupboard when you're sitting in the living room. If you really have a craving, you can go out, and if you tap for just 5 minutes, literally 5 to 6 minutes, if you tap for that long, literally standing outside the cupboard that you keep the potato chips in, most cravings are about 3 minutes long. But we're so used to folding and going to have whatever we want before that amount of time has passed that we've built a habit of folding immediately to any craving that we have. If we tap for about 5 to 6 minutes, almost always a craving will fold. And if you actually go through this process with individual things that you crave, you'll find that you don't really crave that particular product anymore. In fact, if when you start to crave something, you wake up your awareness and you start to look for, what is it that I really want? If it's not food, if this is just something to soothe myself with or reward myself with or keep myself company with, and I've heard the most amazing answers when I've asked people in my weight loss classes, what do you use your craving food for other than nutrition? And I've had, if I have 30 people in a class, I could get 30 different answers. So think about, what am I using this for besides nutrition? And tap on that. And even if it's something that you really crave, have some of it, but just have some. Don't have the entire family size package. And even a small adjustment like this can make a massive difference in your weight over a period of time. Also, lowering your stress level around the idea that I can't have this, and I can't have this, and I can't have that. And if I do have it, I should feel guilty. I should feel ashamed. I should feel upset because I ate too much, and my body actually does feel upset. If we overeat to the point where we don't feel comfortable, that's a real message to us that something else is going on. And that is where some of the places of empowerment are going to come from within this course, the EFT Tapping for Weight Loss course. So that's the end of the Crush Your Cravings video. And I would love to hear your feedback and your comments about this particular video. Please feel welcome to come and look into the program, the EFT-TappingforWeightLoss.com, the program that we're offering. And please feel welcome to use this Crush Your Cravings video and to share it with other people. Keep tapping.